Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Center for Leadership, the podcast where leadership begins at the center, you. I'm Carrie Terhark, your host, and I believe that in order to lead others effectively, we must first learn to lead ourselves. This segment is called Beyond the Title, where we have conversations to explore the raw, unscripted, behind the scenes stories of people discovering how to turn their passion into purpose. We'll share practices, insights, and tools that will help us stay connected, resilient, and ready to empower those in your care. Leadership isn't just a role, it's a choice, and it starts with how you show up for yourself. So let's get started. I am super excited to be here with my friend Dianna today.
Me too.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you
So,
for having me.
yeah. We'll talk a little bit about how we got connected here in a little bit. But I we love to share stories of travel and how we have found ways to work and travel. And kind of that was one of the first things as we started talking. Um, just kind of our similar journeys in finding our passion and the rough road maybe that got us here. So I'm excited to share and to talk with you about that today. But same question for everyone. What lights your fire?
Mm. Well, I don't know if this is a funny answer, but what lights my fire is actually helping light other people's fires
Mm,
because that's where I was. I know you similar path of just feeling so burnt out and everything on the outside looked great. Amazing job, traveling all around the world in a different country every Monday. And on the inside, I was just done. I wanted to give it all up, go live off the land. And
yeah.
so it was through my journey and through so many things that I'm sure we'll talk about that helped me get my fire going. And it's like my life feels like it's been a roller coaster. So it's like, how can you, when you're low, it's so hard sometimes to get that fire going. And sometimes you need a little extra support for that. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I feel like I'm here for.
Yes. I love that. I can't wait to dig in to talk about that. But let's kind of rewind and talk a little bit about where did your journey start? And you can go back as far as you want, but where do you feel like your journey kind of started?
This is hard because I've been through so much and I don't want this to be so long, because if to be honest, it's everything, right? From our
Yeah.
childhood, but also then, at 17, I was in juvenile hall.
Mm,
And from like 17 to 19, just doing stupid things. But then from going from there, it was like my personal life was kind of like crazy, but somehow on my professional life was taking off. Now, I had to work my way through college. So at one point, I had three jobs. I was commuting from Monterey to Silicon Valley. So I was on the road for like 3 hours each way and then going to school at night. But there was something in me that was just like, if you follow this path, you're going to be okay. And so that's what I did. And I just continued to work my way up from like executive assistant, then going into radio sales. I was always on the cutting edge of things, I guess, like implementing emails into for the first time when people think, oh, I can email. And I'm like, well, yes, you will. We're going from yellow pages to the radio. So I started realizing I'm like helping people, leaders in these really big transition times.
mm,
Um, so again, like being really successful professionally, high achieving, pushing through, still feeling spiritual, and but then again, and just following the path. So I had gotten laid off from one of my dream jobs, I thought, where we were all going to be the next Google.
yeah.
And I decided, well, you know what? Because of advice of a friend, I said, I've always wanted to go to LA. And he said, well, you could go to LA, you could talk about it or do it. And so I'm like, I'm going to do it. So, I came down here and I'm like, I'm going to be an entertainment lawyer. And in that process, I started going and networking, and all I was meeting were attorneys
Mm,
and they were miserable. And I was meeting them at the bar at happy hour.
Yeah.
And the bartender said, "You don't want to be an attorney. Look at them. They're in here every night." So I'm like, okay. So I'm listening and I see, oh, broadcasting school. I'll be a sports broadcaster. So I start broadcasting school. And there's one day I'm putting my resume out all over the place, not getting anything. And I'm literally in traffic because it's LA and it takes me like 2 hours to drive down to school. And I'm crying and I'm like talking to God. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
what am I doing? Is this a mistake? Should I just move back? I'm all by myself. And at that moment, my phone rings and is this Dianna Bench? And I'm like, yes. Like,
Yeah.
don't know I'm crying, please. And it was a job interview. Turned out to be where I worked. He was an international healer. I was his right hand for 7 years, and it was the huge start. It's where I learned energy healing and just opened up so much in my life.
Yeah.
So it was just following the path.
Yeah. From the first time that we talked, I just was like, oh, we're sisters. Like there's something in our journeys that are very, very, very connected and have very similar story in a lot of ways. And thinking about just those years of trying to figure out where you fit, where you belong, but because for me it was like the world was telling me I needed to do this, but the feeling inside of me was like what you're supposed to do isn't in a isn't you're not going to find at a job fair, right? Like what you're going to do is something different than that. And it was trying to navigate the world and the rules that was like, well, you have to, I was a mom very, very young. So I was a mom going to college, working, I worked at the college when I wasn't in class. I worked at a pizza place at night. Like so there was all of these things that I was trying to juggle and I'm going to school and at the moment it's almost like survival, like where I need to do this because I've set my mind to it and I want to achieve it and I want to prove to everybody that that I can handle this and that I can do it. And same thing, like my degree was really going into organizations and moving them into Microsoft Office. Like it was like, yeah, same thing.
Remember a mouse? I was a mouse.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And it was like, so yeah, helping these organizations, like this is how you're going to use, access and spreadsheets and, we're going to create databases. We're going to do all this stuff. Um, yeah. And eventually I think it was like on to that next challenge. Like, okay, that was done, which was great because that job doesn't exist anymore. And so it was the fact that I felt like there was a reason to do that because it challenged me to do what's next. So what's next? What's the next big thing? Where can I, move on and go forward? And I just love that in your story in your journey of like I'm gonna move to LA. Why not? Why talk about it? Why not just do it? And those moments of feeling like there's this feeling inside where the feeling you're on the right path, but nothing is aligning and telling you that. And it's such a hard place to be and to sit. And so you went on the road and you started doing this inspirational thing. And you said like it was all about in that moment building those skills. So what in those moments did you feel like, oh, this is my journey. This is where I was supposed to be.
I mean, just facilitating like healing sessions for people.
Yeah.
Having someone um actually it was a friend of mine. She called me and one of her friends was shot in the leg and he couldn't feel his leg at all. And so we drove out to the hospital. And so I was like doing my thing and the nurse kind of comes in and is like, "What's going on?" And so I'm just like, "Ah." And he's like, "What are you doing? Don't, and I'm like, "It's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay." And so whatever, we have to leave and we're driving back and he calls her and he's like, "What did she do to me?" And she said, "Why?" He's like, "Because I could feel my leg now."
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's like things like that. It was just, and being able, we were actually teaching this work for other
Yeah.
people. And so just being a part of seeing these miraculous healings, it was just amazing. And at the same time, it was very much about energy healing. At that point, I still hadn't even meditated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's where that inner was like hollering and burnt out. And after 7 years of doing that, and, having leaders that maybe not so much walk their talk in the same way, you get really burnt out. And so it looks amazing, but on the inside, it's like, oh my gosh. So it was like, oh my gosh, I have to make another pivot. And I didn't know what to do. I went to a women's retreat.
Yeah.
And I'd never done anything like that before. But again, I was just like, I just felt it and I just went. And I got this advice. They said, try something different. And within a couple weeks, I met my partner and we were talking kind of a little bit before, but we hadn't met in person yet. And within a couple weeks, we met in person. And then that went on a whole new thing because now I'm respected and loved and realized you can't go to work like this every day and come home. There was such a
Yeah.
dichotomy.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started looking again and going on the next journey.
I think again, like this is so relatable in that moment where you're like, okay, I'm doing this work. It feeds my soul. I know the purpose of it. I can see the impact that it has on people. And I love to hear the stories. And I love, just the interaction that I'm having, the opportunities that I have, the places I get to travel. And then, like you said, there's this emptiness inside. And it's almost like you're giving so much to all these places, building somebody else's dream. And then there's this moment where you're like, who am I? And I remember like for me, I think it was a slow process over time, but it was kind of like this slow awakening where there were certain conversations that were happening that I was like, what, why am I in this conversation? Or what is this really, how is this really helping me? And I remember there kind of being this moment where I I just said to the group, like, I'm just not proud of who I am as a person. I'm not proud of who I am as a leader in this organization. Like, I believe in this mission so much, and yet I'm not living it because I don't think we're living it. And that is like that choice where you're like, okay, now do I hang out and help try right size this ship, or do I just walk away? So tell me a little bit more about what was that moment for you? Like how was that? Was it like a light bulb? Was it a slow awakening? Was it a slowly crashing ship? What was it for you?
Well, I was probably on a slowly crashing ship, right? From that
Yeah.
moment, until then. And then it was almost like an awakening. It was almost like, yes, I need to get out. Like, you could do this. You've done this before. So again, I started making connections and calling people and saying, hey, I'm looking for something, and just trusted it. And that again actually took a few months to really find something. But when I did, someone made a connection for me. And again, it was just an amazing next milestone. I was the marketing director for a company that did conscious change leadership. So again, right up your alley
Yep.
of
Yep.
change and change leadership, but right, doing it in that conscious way that goes so much beyond change management. And so I was there for another 7 years, which is funny. It's like these 7 year
Mm-hmm.
cycles, right? And I learned so much. I bring so much of that into what I do now. And that's really, my first day of work, I was going to be remote, but I went there because they were doing a retreat for some CEOs, had them in the room, and they were meditating without realizing they were meditating. And I was just so impressed. But
Yeah.
that CEO greeted me from the room at the very beginning, welcomed me. I literally cried because I had never been recognized like that before in the room. I'd
Yeah.
been yelled at
Yeah.
in the room. I'd never
Right.
been recognized in the room. And so it was so, again, it was so amazing for so long. And then after a while, there was exactly what you said of, I'm building something for somebody else. I'm building something where things keep changing. So I don't have control because now we're going to go look at this shiny object, or we're going to go to this shiny object. And so again, it started bringing me really down. I realized that now just talking to you, not doing anything about it is when I got really depressed again,
Yes.
really low again,
Yeah.
to where it's kind of like you've got to do something because you're so low. It's just, you know, and I started again, networking, talking to people. And at that point, a colleague of mine, we were like, let's start our own business. Now, I never in a million years wanted to start I was the only salesperson who sold radio who actually had a guarantee,
Yeah.
because I was that good at just making sure I always had
Yep.
some kind of guarantee. And so I was like, let's do it, and it was amazing because we didn't know what we wanted to do, but we planned what we wanted it to look like and
Yes.
feel and
Yes.
be. And so it's like that energy just drew us. And so it's like I quit a 6-figure job, like jumped in, and that's been ups and downs too. It's like the same patterns, to where I'm not with that business partner anymore. I'm now fully on my own.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually brought me even more to my purpose,
Yes.
because the
Yes.
healing went away. But during my journey, it came back. Creativity came, music. I started making sound meditations. I started creating art. I never thought of myself as like an artist or anything, but through my own healing and now going inside, not just the external energy, but the inside, where the energy gets stuck in us.
Yes.
We're all frequency, we vibrate. And if we're vibrating low, that's what we're vibrating towards us. And so that
It's,
was such a huge awakening.
yeah. I think for me too, I think I was just actually reflecting on this last night because I think, relationships also continue to change and letting go of different relationships. For me, I'm a relationship person. They're very, very important to me. And so I hold them so close and so valuable. And I've always had, this feeling like they have to be forever. And then realizing that there's a season for that and there's an intention for that. And I think as I've, really kind of spent the last week kind of in this space and even reflecting back on my journey and being like everything serves a purpose, right? Nothing came into our life by accident, no person, no job, nothing. And it was an opportunity to learn and a stepping stone. And then even looking back at my last experience where I, really talked about it in a negative way when I left because I was hurt. And that hurt wasn't necessarily caused by any one person. It was just the idea of change and letting go of things that I thought were supposed to be really, really close. And it was just the end of that season. And really looking back and saying that it wasn't negative, but I outgrew that faster. Like I outgrew it, right? And I feel like that cycle, like you're talking about, like for me, it's about 5 years, 5 to 7 years, somewhere in there too, right about that spot where it's like you outgrow something, whether it's the organization, the values, the system, the relationship. You were there, served a purpose, you learned from each other, you gained insight and skill set, and now ready for what's next. And I think having this conversation about looking at it as a blessing rather than something that was so negative and a lesson, I think there's lessons every day, but yeah, I don't know. For me, I'm just trying to change that narrative in my head too, to be like it served a purpose. It was there. I learned and I've outgrown.
And that's sometimes the hardest thing to do.
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of in that process right now myself. And it's,
Yeah.
again, once again, of letting something go so I can really, and yeah, it's so hard. But when you do it, it's hard then. And then, like you said, when you can look back of the times that you do it, it just opens the door to so much more.
Yeah.
once you actually are courageous enough to take that step.
Yeah. It's like you have to let go of what is comfortable, even though it might not be good anymore.
Yes. Yes.
So,
And going into the unknown.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What is that saying? Like the the enemy you know is better than the like whatever you don't know. Whatever But that's
Yeah.
where it is. Like if you're comfortable, you're not growing, right? And man, it sucks. It sucks to be uncomfortable.
Oh, so true. And like you said, though, I wouldn't change anything
Mm-mm.
as hard or whatever as it was. I wouldn't change anything, anything.
And I think for that too, like your experiences that you had is what makes you valuable to the clients that you serve today.
Hmm. Absolutely. Again, working with frequencies now and understanding the vibration, we just resonate with people differently. I mean, it's just like in a relationship, you have chemistry with some people, you don't have chemistry with others. It's the same with your coaches, with your mentors, you know. Sometimes my best friend will be like, "Oh, I love this guy," you know, and I'll watch them like, "Oh, it doesn't really resonate." And then I'll do the same, "Oh, watch this person," and it doesn't really resonate because we all have our own paths. I named my company Real Authentic Wisdom
Mm,
because it's your own inner wisdom. It's like I learned you just pick up the pieces along the way that resonate to your truth, to your, because nobody has all the answers. And for if that person says they're the one who has all the answers and you can only do their step by step, maybe
yeah.
start thinking about finding other answers for yourself.
Well, I love that too because in the conversations that we've had, even about what I do, that I, really believe that leadership starts with you, right? And for me, leadership is whatever you want that to be. It's not a job title. It's not power that is given to you. It's how you step into life. It's how you show yourself your values. Like how do you show yourself compassion? How do you show yourself love and collaboration and all of the things that you say, as we say, are leadership, qualities. But then understanding that the only narrative I can control is me, is how I show up in those spaces. And I just like we have got to stop waiting for someone to come save us.
Yes. Yes, 100%. Because again, it is about our vibe. When we walk into a room, you can feel when the vibration, when the energy is low and the energy is high. And you've gone into a meeting where the leader and you're like going in, you're like, oh gosh. Or you've gone into a meeting, you're like, all right, this is going to be great. Because we know it starts at the top. So it's
Yes.
not, and it's your inside. It's what are you, if you're miserable inside, that's what you're projecting as, it's funny. So when I left the energy healing going into the next opportunity, I thought I was being super nice to people at the beginning. And there
Mm.
was this company we were working with, and they actually complained. They said I was too direct. I was too, and I thought I was really being mindful, thinking because when the leader's at the top being that way, we're all throwing each other under the bus, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
realize that that was now ingrained into how I was leading at another place. It was such a like, whoa, there's a big
Yeah.
lesson.
Oh, that was a light bulb moment for me because as you're talking about that, I I'm a person who is definitely on the collaborative side. I'm always looking for win-win, and I'm usually a soft communicator, right? I'm not always super, super direct. I can be direct, right? But when I step into clients and spaces, I'm usually looking for a softer approach. And working with people my whole life, or probably my last 10, 12 years of people who needed that direct communication. And I can do that, but same thing. Like I realize that in situations where there's really high energy or there's high stress, and I step in with more of a direct approach, it doesn't come off as being direct. It comes off as, wow, she's a bitch. Like what? And I'm just
See,
trying to be clear. But it's not my, when I'm in those high energy spaces, I need to kind of pull back and be my authentic self. And it's, yeah, adjusting that transitional leadership communication styles. That's a journey itself.
It is. It is. And you're touching on a whole other subject too, where we don't want to go there of when we're direct, we're bitches, but that's a
Yep.
whole other
Yeah,
conversation.
we could do a whole podcast on that one. And I try and be funny about it. Like when I catch myself kind of doing it, I try and be and some, like say that some people catch the humor and some people are like, I don't know what she's trying
Yeah.
to do here.
But it's funny because you bring to mind another lesson I had not too long ago of I was actually watching Loki, the Disney movie.
Mm,
Like we were big Marvel fans. We were watching
yeah.
Loki. And so like the evil, not evil, but she's like the bad guy and she's so strict, but she's the boss. And there's a moment where she's doing something, I don't even remember what, and it hit me. And it's like, yeah, she's a woman and she's still following that same masculine, the shadow masculine
Yes.
structure of how things were
Yes.
built. So it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman in that position. It's are they balanced on the inside of their masculine, feminine, and how is the structures and the systems set up in that culture, right? Of
Yeah.
how they lead people.
And this is, yeah, here. Season 2, we'll talk about get in because I think that's the misconception that women in leadership. I think the piece that we missed is that when women's liberation or women getting back into the workplace and getting to leadership positions or high levels within the organization, the only way that it was ever modeled to us was by the way that the men did it before us. And what I think we're missing is what does that look like from a feminine place to do that, right? Because,
Yeah,
and it there's just so much to explore in that because I think there is it's as things are continuing to change in our world and um yeah, it all starts with you. It all starts with yourself. It starts with knowing who you are and how you communicate and the energy that you bring in the room and how you take care of yourself and how you model that behavior for other people. And I think it starts with women and I love to see it in men as well who are embracing that and like you said when you talked about the CEO, being in there and meditating and doing these things like it does when you are confident and centered in who you are and you understand the energy that you bring, it just opens the doors for everyone.
absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. It's yeah.
We're gonna have a whole nother season. That's gonna be great.
I know it's well, I guess the last thing I want to say about that is it's the balance inside too.
Mm,
Though it's not again, it's the balance of the
yeah,
masculine and feminine because we can't go all feminine to where it's like all feely and no action. We need the action and the
we need the action.
structure of the masculine. That's the power, there's the good of each and we need that balance to really move things if we're a man or a woman, but
Yeah.
especially as leaders.
Yeah. And this is my shameless plug here. But I think that's what drew me to the facilitation framework that I use and that I train is because it goes through that process, right? It really helps us uncover what we've experienced, what I've noticed, right? What I'm taking in through how I'm taking the world in through my own senses. What does that look like to me? Then being able to understand what is my association to that? What are the experiences that I've had that are different from other people in the room. And I think that's the part that we miss a lot too. And that's that, you know, just understanding. Like that's the perspective. I want to understand who you are. I want to understand how, when you say you're against this change, what is it about it? What's your experience with that? Where are you coming from? And when I can understand that, then it's about, okay, let's be innovative and creative together. And then we're not leaving until we know what our next steps are. So it's that cycle that embraces all of that and it embraces all personalities and embraces feminine and masculinity. It embraces just the process because we all have the ability to think and feel in those ways. So,
Absolutely. And that's I think one of the strongest things is is putting yourself in other people's shoes,
Yeah.
and really thinking about that. And that was one of the greatest things of that transformational change company is we used to have check-ins, and I
Yeah.
implement this now with my clients is we have check-ins. And again, at the beginning, they used to say I had PTSD from my other position because, it was just like,
Yeah.
and so, oh gosh, now I forgot where I was going with that.
But how they implemented. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so the check-ins, and it was very early on.
Hmm.
And, we were doing a check-in, and this is a meeting that was in the afternoon. Well, in the morning, someone had emailed me, and I looked at that and I'm like, hell is her problem,
Right.
like thinking. But then we had our check-in that day, and she had just found out her sister has cancer.
Mm.
I was like, OMG. I
Hmm.
felt like so bad. Thank God I didn't say anything, I kept it to
Right.
myself.
Right.
But it was just such a strong lesson is you don't know what's going on in other people's lives.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
don't know what just happened, the phone call they just got. We just don't
We
know.
don't.
And it's like, how do we want to be treated when those things
Yeah.
happen to us?
Yeah. I we talk about that a lot too, about even the risk of calling people out in a meeting or in a conversation to be like, "Hey, Diana, I know you have you have an opinion on this, say something." Right? But I don't know what happened right before you walked into that room, right? When we put people on the spot like that, especially when we're in an organization that doesn't have a lot of trust, it it's a hard place to be. And to rather than to call people out, we always like to say, let's invite people in, right? And just kind of the same thing that you're talking about, the energy that from the moment that you walk into the room to how we're greeting people, to how we're creating space for people to have conversation, the questions that we're asking to help us move through that process in order to really listen to one another and think about what it is that we can do together. And I want to talk a little bit about what the work that you're doing now. So how has that, all of that stuff, what is it that you're doing now with that? What's going on?
Well, it's been a discovery, and it's kind of just really blossomed all through this year now of really realizing again, we're frequency, we are
Hmm.
energy. And so our frequency affects our company's frequency. And so at first it was kind of separate. It's like, oh, I'm doing healing and frequency, and then I'm doing conscious business strategy and helping leaders and entrepreneurs, build their businesses, think of it, make a bigger impact really for them to help fulfill their purpose. But as I was doing it, I realized if you can't really put in a strategy well if that leader has a really narrow mindset of how they see the world. And
Yeah.
so I'm also a vertical development coach.
Mm.
um, by this, it's this incredible framework by Bill Torbert. And if you haven't, I would look it up, Global
Yeah.
Leadership Associates. It's just so amazing because horizontal development is, just building more skills. But vertical development is really opening up to being able to see through complexities and, see bigger than where we are right now. And so we can solve those bigger challenges and see ourselves in other people as we go along in different later action logic stages. We start putting ourselves in the shoes of other people. We
Yeah.
start making those considerations. But it's so interesting to see that's actually adult development that we're just going through from the beginning of it's all about me and nobody else into, cooperation. And it's just a part of adult development. So that's what I do is I coach leaders on that, to help them, see how do they see the world and then raise their frequency as well.
Mm. Mm.
Because I call myself a vibratarian.
Oh, I
And,
love that.
we vibrate on all levels.
Mm.
We've got our minds, but they're not just minds. We've got, like I said, the energy that gets stuck in our bodies from trauma. So I'm a somatic coach. So, things like breath work and movement and things to get that stuff stuck that's been stuck out of you. And it seems such simple things, but they're so powerful once you do it. It
Mm.
really helps. And so that's what I'm here for is I work with leaders to help them raise the vibration of themselves and their companies.
I think about that. This is it's so perfect timing that we're talking today because I have been doing a lot of self-reflection in the last couple of days. I'm doing a lot of rebranding. So there's just a lot of things that are moving and shifting. And one of the things that I was really thinking about in my own experience, so I love the adult development because and we teach from experience, right? Like our experiences are shaping what we're offering to the world. And everyone has that, right? Everyone in your organization has their own journey and experiences that can be valuable to innovation and moving into the future if we know how to tap into that and invite those in. Like that is just like that unlocks the world. And then understanding how we show up in that energy because it was just reflecting the other day about situations where maybe not my proudest moments in working in teams and just thinking about what was the feeling? Like if I think back to that moment, what was the feeling that I was carrying? And it was, it was something that was going on with me, trauma that I was carrying in my body that was, I was tight and tense and my heart was racing and something happens and rather than going through the system of letting that out, I'm carrying it and then I have a feeling that I feel like I need to fix rather than letting that feeling that's a feeling and it's not something that I need to come rip your head off for. Like that is it's there and it's a check now for me to be like, okay, whoa, I need to step back because I need to do the work in my own energy before I continue on in this because I'm not going to be helpful or, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. To see like those triggers, right? Like, okay,
Hmm.
what is that that's triggering me? Because it's really not about what they did. There's something inside that we, some, so many of different reasons,
Yeah.
right? But that triggered something deep in us. And once we start seeing it, it softens, right? And like you
Hmm.
said, you can make a joke about it, or you
Hmm.
can, and then the more, then it just starts finally dissolving away. And now, it's not in your way of being and acting. And it's back. But if
Yeah.
we're aware, at
I,
least we can clean it up.
I
It's
just
about
think,
how do you do
yeah.
after?
Yeah, I just think about all of the miscommunication and arguing and the just the toxic culture within organizations. A lot of times it's because we push through and push through and push through and don't slow down to take that time for ourselves and we end up having to go back and repair relationships or going back and repairing things because we didn't step into it in the way that was really productive for anyone.
Yeah,
And then that breeds toxic cultures, right? Because if I'm continually going off the handle because I'm not centered and I haven't done the work, I'm triggering you and then you're doing the same thing. And then somebody new is experiencing it's like, oh, is that how we talk? Is that how we function? And now they're doing it, right? It just is this snowball of, okay, now we have a toxic culture and we don't know what to do about it. And it's hard to say, get rid of that one person because by the time we recognize it's happening, we're all part of it now.
exactly. Exactly. And then think about what kind of strategies, what kind of innovation is actually coming from this toxic relationships where everybody's scared. Mostly everyone's just scared.
Yeah.
They just want to come to where everyone just wants to be happy. Everyone wants to just go home at the end of the day, get their check, be
Yes.
happy. We don't want to go through that. And yeah, it's just, it's, and sometimes we have to be courageous enough to maybe take ourselves out of those situations because they're not
Yeah.
going to change.
Yeah.
And that's when it's hard. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. We both experienced that where you're just like, this is the breaking point. I'm no longer, I no longer want this to be going on and I don't want to carry it and I don't want to contribute to it.
exactly. And trust the universe because so many, I've got clients. Yeah, but it's my job, it's my check. And again, it's like once you show the universe, like when I quit, that was the scariest thing, like quitting this
Yeah.
good, like, but it opened up. Clients started
Yeah.
coming in. We had a client before we had a website. Like,
Yeah.
it was just the universe is will support if we do that work, and it's not easy. I'm not going to tell you it's easy, but it's worth it. It's
It's
so
so
worth it. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my entire life. Yeah, do I have moments? Of course, we all have our ups and downs still, but it's like the downs aren't so low anymore and aren't so long anymore.
mm, mhm.
It's like you feel, like you said, sit in it, feel it. Why am I feeling this? It's kind of, you integrate it and it
Yes.
dissolves more instead of
Yes.
bypassing it and pushing it down and
Pushing it
pushing it
down
away.
just to have it come back up stronger, like, indigestion the next day.
Exactly. Or 5 years later, when someone cuts you off and then there was that trigger, or that your colleague said something, like we were just
Yes.
saying.
Yes. And like I said, it's such a work in progress. And I caught myself even last week, like just responding to something in a way that, in the moment, it made logical sense. Like, I don't understand why this is happening, that you're not communicating, whatever. And so I'm like, well, I'm just going to let them know this is the way that I'm perceiving this. Not even realizing that it was a feeling and not necessarily, it was something else that was coming up. So it always is a work in progress, but I recognize it now, right? And then I'm able to say like, okay, I do apologize. Like that wasn't fair. I realized that I wasn't asking questions, that I had a feeling, and rather than clarifying it and understanding where you're coming from, I just moved. I tried to fix my feeling. I tried to fix my feeling so I felt better about it, which didn't solve the problem. It just damaged our relationship.
Yeah. But don't you see, how did that person react when you did come back
Yeah.
to
I
them?
mean, it makes a difference, right? Because then they see the journey like, oh, okay, you're right. Yes. And I think modeling that too, right? Because I'm never going to be perfect, but being able to model that and opening the door for other people to model it back to you as well.
Exactly. Exactly. Walking your talk to me is so, because we're just big onions. We just keep
Yeah.
peeling and peeling and crying and peeling and crying and
So when
laughing
you
and
you think
crying
you
and
get to the
peeling.
core, there's a whole nother layer.
Right? Exactly. I think that's going to be until we
Yeah.
transition to the next, because
Yeah.
that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
We did sign up for this. We signed up for this. And even the hard things we signed up for, because we really wanted to, whatever our souls wanted to learn, we wanted to learn a lot of things. I guess I really wanted to learn a lot of things.
I want to learn a lot of things and I want to experience a lot of things and I just want to be open to the world. And being open to the world, this is what it looks like, right? Not living with my head in the sand.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
not, and just being confident of just being who you are,
Yeah.
is such an inspiration to other people who are
Yeah.
afraid to do that.
That's a long journey. Like I think, uh, it's it's a long self-discovery journey and then being okay with this is I'm made perfectly the way that I'm supposed to be and for the purpose of what I'm here to do.
Hmm. Well, I'm so hopeful of our younger generation of leaders, because they didn't get filled with all the crap of things that people say, of all the, no, they didn't get filled with crap.
Yeah.
So they're going to lead in such amazing ways. Like that's really I know you work with youth a lot too. And that's
Yes.
really, my passion is this new generation of, of, I know, amazing leaders. Even when I look at my little nieces and nephews, the things that they say that comes out of their mouth, I'm just, you are so wise. Keep
Yes.
that,
Yes.
like
Yes.
I can't wait for the future to just see what happens.
Every time I'm working with youth, it's just I've always been an advocate for youth because when you have conversations and build a relationship and you real just as you say, you realize that like they don't see the world the way that we see them, right? They haven't been fed stories of limitations and things that we have now decided are real. And to keep that hope alive and to give them the skills at a younger age to communicate, to do self work, to do those things, it's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what the future brings. And,
Yes.
I know it's like people could be like, how could she possibly say that right now with everything that's going on? And, to me, we've got to get in this darkness to get to the light.
Yeah.
We have to go through, just like in our individual journeys of getting to the low. That's, as a society, as a world, is kind of what's happening right now too.
Yeah.
It's like it's got to dissolve away, and the more we can do something about it, right? We were told there's nothing you can do. There is, because we can raise our own individual frequencies.
Mm.
Because just think, if you could imagine, you can't see energy, but it's there. The waves are there, Wi-Fi is there. So our frequencies are here. So we can make a difference.
Yeah.
If you pluck a string on a guitar and it's at this high level, the other one will raise to it. Same with, like tuning forks, they come together. We come together. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can do something about it now.
Yeah. I like that. I think what came to mind too is like those light bulb moments are so much brighter when you're in a dark cave, right?
Yes. Yes. That's so
It's
true. I
like,
love that.
wow. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so true. That's so true. That's how you see bigger and brighter and more. That is so true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have been talking for a long time. We're definitely going to be reconnecting and doing more of this. But as we close out, I just want to invite you to have our last word and to be able to say, like, what is it? What's the nugget that you want to leave our listeners with?
Mm. Well, first of all, thank you. This was so
Yeah.
fun. I loved every moment of it. And, oh, you know, I think just the understanding again of that we are vibration and frequency. And even if you're at the lowest low right now and feeling inside like so hopeless, there really is things that you could do to start little tiptoe by tiptoe of getting your way out of it. And if you've got something and that's been in the back of your mind, like, I've always wanted to do that, I've always wanted to do that, do it. Just do it. Just
Yeah.
do it. At least start making baby steps towards it. You don't have to go quit your job then, but you could start working a few hours at night of doing something that helps you goes towards it. So
Yeah.
just know anything really is possible when you raise your vibration, your mindset. Yeah.
And you will find that people come into your lives like you came into mine. Like that was all energy and vibration. Because that was what I was putting
Exactly.
out to the world, right? We both had that conversation. It's like, oh, I want to find somebody that I can connect with on this level. And it happens.
Yes, absolutely. Exactly. Exactly.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here. It was such a great
Thank you.
conversation. If you any, we'll put a link and some information for we'll put some information and some links if you want to learn more about Dana and the work that she does in our description. But until then, we'll see you next time.